each and every week. This is episode 110. I have a very special guest. Before I even talk about the guest today, I want to say here at YouGoin Pro, we help develop pros on and off the field so they can dominate in every area of life like a champion is meant to be. Before we get started, I want to give a quick sponsor by YouGoin Pro Podcast. I'm sorry, YouGoin Pro Publisher. I'm on my tongue tied. And that is for my very next book I just wrote, Are You Really D1? If you want to discover any secrets what college coaches are looking for and how this breaks down the mindset, the preparation, the discipline, the character need to compete at the next level. Here's my very own book. I'm going to go ahead and put it up there. It's called Are You Really D1? And this has a lot of interviews, experiences, and things that you need to look for because a lot of times we're chasing the wrong things. But I have some secrets that you might want to get in. So if you want to get a copy of that book, go ahead and go to www.ru, the letter D, the number one.com. Again, it's RUARED1.com. So, with that being said, today's guest, I'm so excited to say his name, Kash Shaikh, the global sports entrepreneur, visionary leader. Kash is the founder and chairman of Baseball United. If you don't know what that is, look it up. It's the very first professional baseball league that focuses on bringing the game to the Middle East and South Asia area and also Dubai. He's a founder also of BSB Group International and BSB Sports organization dedicated to help building global sports business partnership and opportunities across the emerging markets. Throughout that, Kash has helped expand baseball beyond traditional borders, creating new pathways for players here in the States and also overseas, according to the game, to millions of new fans around the world. His mission is simply to help be powerful, grow the game of baseball global, and create a new opportunity for the next generation. How you doing, Kash?
Hey, Coach, man, great to be here. Great to meet you. Great to see the You Going Pro podcast doing so well, man.
I think
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate that, man. And you know what? They don't know this, but I've been trying to get you for over a year. They don't know that, but it has been worth the journey, and it's okay because I'm one of the type of guys. You gotta show people how bad you really want it, and you just gotta be respectful. And I want to say thank you. I didn't know you had three business, Cash. You're all over the
Well,
place.
I just, as you know, I just stepped down as the chairman of Baseball United a
Okay.
few weeks ago. After 4 incredible years of building the whole baseball ecosystem out in the Middle East from the ground up with an amazing team, and now really excited about what we're building again, what we're firing up at BSB and BSB Sports, particularly in the NIL space and the college space, which I know is somewhere that you really focus, man, and how we get young kids that's that next level into the D1 level. So BSB has been doing that for years, and we're firing
Wow.
that back up. And then, I got some things cooking, Coach, that I'll announce soon.
Yeah, and it's good to know that because after I did the research, Cash, I didn't know that you did that type of work as well until I looked. I had to go back to your Instagram. I'm like, wait, let me click this and click this. And I was like, this guy's doing everything, but I appreciate that because a lot of times people just kind of look at the picture. They don't know what's behind the scenes. And I like what you said. You're cooking some more stuff. I got some things I'm cooking as well. And I really want to say thank you again for coming on because
Thank you,
we're gonna
man.
we're gonna dive into some deep stuff that some guys and future baseball players, girls, or whatever the case may be, coming from where you come from. You're here in the States as well. I want to ask you a question. For the listeners that may be listening, Baseball United, for the first time ever, let's go from ground zero.
Yes.
What inspired you to launch a professional baseball league in a different region of the world?
Well, I think the most important part is we started this mission with a group of guys that were all passionate about growing the game. We knew that the game obviously had made such an impact culturally, way beyond even the sports world, but into the daily lives of so many people here in the US, in Japan, in Latin America. But we realized that there's this huge part of the world in the Middle East and South Asia that
Right.
had, 2 billion people,
Yeah.
and 1 billion of them were cricket fans. You know,
Yeah.
the bat and ball epicenter of the universe, as I used to
Right.
always say. And none of them had the opportunity to learn the game of baseball, the game that
Mm,
we love. And so we saw it as a business opportunity, a cultural impact opportunity, a
mm,
community impact opportunity that we had to bring the game of baseball to that region for the first time. And that's what we were able to do with Baseball United. We created the first ever professional baseball league in the history of the Middle East and South Asia,
mm.
based out of Dubai. Did everything, man, from building a ballpark from scratch, building the whole ecosystem, bringing on
Wow.
broadcasters, sponsors, launching franchises. This is our Karachi Monarchs, the first professional baseball franchise in history of the
Okay.
country of Pakistan. Pakistan's the fifth largest country in the world, 250 million people, man.
Wow.
We created the first franchise in India. I
Mm,
signed an agreement with the UAE government to launch Dubai and Abu Dhabi franchises. I mean, stuff, man, that you dream about doing, and thankfully we had an opportunity to go after it.
mm-hmm.
I always tell people when I started the journey, I knew that on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the hardest thing I ever did in my life, this was going to be a solid 10. And what I learned is this was actually a 47, dude. This thing was like way harder
Then you thought.
than I ever imagined because we
Mm,
had to literally, as I mentioned, build the whole ecosystem from scratch. Like people didn't know the game out there.
right.
When I went out to Dubai in 2022, man, people didn't understand the game. You probably had a few thousand people in a country of 10 million people in the UAE that knew the game. So we had to, educate sponsors, educate the government, not only bring on broadcasters, but teach our camera people how to follow baseball. They never shot baseball before.
Oh.
They didn't know left field versus right field. They don't know second base and third base.
Oh.
We had to do that level of depth of training and teaching, man. We had to go to schools and try to get kids involved in the game, teach them how to catch and throw and things like that. So
Wow.
it was such a huge undertaking, and I'm really proud of what we did. Obviously, we just had our first season, man.
Right.
We had almost 100 million viewers on our broadcast. One of the most
100
watched
millions cash?
profession, yes, sir. One of the most watched professional sports leagues in the world.
Wow.
Most of those viewers came from India and Pakistan. Again, massive countries that love bat and ball sports. So, really proud of the team. Really proud of what we were able to do, and very grateful to now have been able to hand the reins off to the next group of leaders at Baseball United to take things to the next
Next
level.
level. Okay.
And for me, you know, global international baseball continues to be a focus. There's a lot more to do, man. And,
Wow.
guys like us, we don't stop. We,
No,
we
you
just
keep
turn the
moving.
page, it's the next chapter. And,
Right.
I've been having great conversations with folks in India, Pakistan to see what else we can build and do out there. So I'm excited
Wow.
about that. And, it's a big world, man. It's a big
Yes.
world, and there's a
Yes.
lot of places we can make impact. And that's what I'm excited about.
Man, you've said quite a bit. First thing is this: you got a group of guys that agree. That's the first. That's a big challenge within itself. Then
Yes.
you go overseas to a totally different country. It's taken you 4 years. I'm sitting there thinking, but before the 4 years came, you had a vision. I mean, this didn't just happen 2020. You said 2022, but it happened before because it had to germinate, the seed had to grow, things had to happen. And with that being said, building a successful business, you have a total of three, which you said you passed it on to the next person, but you still got your foot in it. I guarantee you got your foot in it some kind of way. With that, how did your business background prepare you to take on some of these ambitious things you're building global? Like how
Right.
did it prepare you?
Well, I was born and raised in Houston, Texas,
Okay.
and I went to school at the University of Texas in Austin, and I
Okay.
started my career at a company called Procter and Gamble,
Which,
P&G.
yes, we know what
Uh,
that is. Yes.
yes, the largest consumer products company in the world, worked on brands like Gillette and Old Spice and
Yes.
Tide. And I was at P&G for 10 years, and
Okay.
that really trained me on core business fundamentals, on brand building, on leadership with purpose. So I'm really grateful to everyone at Procter and Gamble, all my
Okay.
mentors,
Good.
and all the great people and the great systems I learned at P&G.
Okay.
My last role at P&G, coach, an amazing role. Procter and Gamble gave me the opportunity to lead social cause, social marketing in developing countries. And at that time,
Wow.
it was really low income countries. So
Okay.
all of Latin and South America, the Middle East, Central and Eastern Europe, Asia. And, I really got a chance to see the world. In 2.5 years, I was able to visit 50 countries with Procter and Gamble. And I got to really learn the cultures, and get to see that we're all a lot more similar than we are different. I got to walk through the favelas in Rio in Brazil. I got to walk into the barangays in Manila in the Philippines, the
Mm.
barrios in Mexico. And I got to see, people living across the world in tough conditions, man.
Wow.
And that really inspired me about, bringing people together, working globally to try
Mhm.
to elevate opportunities to people in need. And it really changed my life, man, seeing that and being a part of that. Then I left P&G, and G, and you'll like this. I don't know if you saw this. And then I went to GoPro. I went to a company
Yeah.
called GoPro, the camera company,
Yes. Yes.
and,
Yes.
and I went to GoPro in the early days, man. When I
When
went
they
to
first
GoPro,
when they first started.
yeah, I mean, nobody really knew about GoPro past, the western part of the U.S. It hadn't made it to the Midwest yet, to the East Coast. And when I went to GoPro, it was a one-story white cottage on the edge of the Pacific Ocean. And when I left, the great team over there, led by the amazing CEO and founder Nick Woodman, we had moved into the heart of Silicon Valley to 45,000 square foot offices. I mean, GoPro was the hottest company in Silicon Valley in 2012, 2013,
Right.
2014.
Right.
But what was great about that, man, is at Procter and Gamble, I learned how to kind of operate businesses at the corporate level, and then
Mm.
at GoPro, I learned how to operate businesses at the fast-growing startup level. Because when I
Mm.
went to GoPro, they were doing about 180 million in sales. When I left, we were doing about $1 billion dollars in sales.
Mm.
So it was a rocket ship that I was blessed to learn from and be a part of. And
Mm.
then when I left GoPro, man, I started building my own businesses. And I built a
Mm.
company called Be Somebody, which was an inspirational content platform, also focused on underserved communities, black and brown communities, global communities that needed to be elevated. I was able to sell that business in 2017. Then I built a training platform for
Mm.
underserved communities to help
Mm.
people get jobs across America. I was able to exit that in 2018.
Wow.
And then I built my agency, BSB Group International, which is a marketing agency focused on helping companies grow. And then I was able to, right during COVID, man, open up our sports division in 2020. And, we were on the front edge of the NIL movement. We were the first agency to represent college athletes at BSB Sports. We had over 300 college athletes that we got to
Wow.
represent and do NIL deals for. We started working with MLB players, everyone from Miguel Cabrera to Mookie Betts to Yuli Gurriel, great MLB guys, and representing them on marketing programs and deals.
Jeez.
And then was able to, start building out Baseball United from there. So it's been an amazing journey. And as when you're really focused on what you're passionate about, your greater purpose of helping and giving and serving others and trying to build,
Correct.
then everything you do builds upon each other.
Correct.
And sometimes it don't always work out like you want it to.
Correct.
I mean,
That's right.
I've had a ton of losses and lessons along the way, but if you keep going, keep believing, keep trusting in the good Lord up above, and keep knowing that your intentions are good and clear,
Correct.
then you can keep building on top of one thing after
Yeah.
another, and that's what I've been blessed to be able to do.
I like that, Cash. You said a whole lot, but the one thing that I really take in how God just kind of orchestrated your steps, because like you started doing things. You came to University of Texas, right? That was the beginning. That was just the
Yes.
beginning, and then all of a sudden you got a job at P&G, and then all of a sudden they put you in different parts of the world. They did. So
Right.
basically, it was a free ride. It was basically an
Yeah.
introduction, and they were just it
It's
was
what.
seed. You were just throwing seeds out there. It's preparing you for what you just did and getting
Yes.
ready to do other things. And I like what you said because you said they took you in different countries. And I
Yes.
started thinking about that. I said, wait a minute. This is how God works. He put you
Yeah.
in these different countries to prepare for Baseball United. And by the way, that name is not a 10, it's a 12. I love the
Thank you,
name
man. Thank
Baseball
you, man.
United. And I just want to say that
I
because
still remember in 2022, I was just on my iPhone going through my little notes, pad on the
hmm
notepad on your iPhone, and I was writing down all these different names, and everything was like something something league, World Baseball League, this and that, and I just like it felt well. A lot of them were taken, or it felt
correct,
heavy. And then I was like, what about just Baseball United? We don't need the word league in there. We
right,
don't, it just
right,
clean and it's powerful and speaks for yourself. And then I started scribbling out what a logo could be. And I really wanted it to start at home plate because, the metaphor and the beauty of baseball and life, there's so many parallels to sports
correct,
and life when you think
correct.
about it. And like obviously you start your at bat in baseball at home
At
plate.
home
The
plate.
beginning, that's the beginning. And I wanted the beginning of baseball in the Middle East and India and Pakistan to start at home plate. It gives me goosebumps thinking about it
Ooh,
because
I mean,
you know,
I'm with you. I mean, you connected with me too. I'm like,
yeah,
wow.
man. I just drew this little home plate, and then I wanted energy. I wanted a little rocket going through there to show momentum, because going up and to the right is kind of growth. And I started it at the bottom left
Bottom.
corner of the plate and just built a stripe, a bar through that home plate. And I was like, man, this is it.
That's it. That's it.
And those are the things that, as when you're building something, people don't think about. They see the end product, they see years and years and years of what happens, and even people who join the journey later, they have
Right.
no idea,
What
man, what
did?
you
Right.
did. Like when you're all alone at 2 in the morning,
Yes.
the
Yes.
logo of the
Yes.
league that eventually
Yes.
people all
Yes.
around the world are going to know, man. So it's a beautiful thing, and I
Yeah.
always say, Coach, that building something from nothing is the most difficult yet most beautiful thing you can do,
Right. It is.
because it's a lot of hard work. Obviously, it's a lot of pain and suffering and toil and sacrifice, and people don't realize what you have to give up.
Right.
And you got critics everywhere,
Yeah.
either outside the journey or even people who join with
That's
you.
right. That's
They
right.
don't understand why you have to become what you have to become to do something like that.
Correct.
Because you have to have such an intensity and intense mentality to be able to build something,
Something.
especially when you take it to another part of the world when there's nothing there. But
Mm.
that's the beauty of it too, because you and your family and God, they see it, and you always remember those nights, those moments when you were
Mm-hmm.
building by yourself, and then
Yes.
obviously when people come in with you to help, you remember those people that stood by you and that grew it with you.
Yeah.
And I always try to take those people with me on the next chapter, the next journey. I mean, I think back of how many people that started with me in one business and then 7, 8 years later, still building. And, this next chapter is going to be the same thing. I'm going to
Mm.
bring the best of the best, the all stars that I've met around the world into the next journey. And we're going to keep building, man. We still want to grow. We still want to kick some ass.
Oh man, this is a good story. I mean, this is kind of like the Jim Moore story, the 35-year-old when he didn't get drafted and he had an opportunity to go play minor league ball with the Marlins. And I talked about that on another episode, but I
Yeah.
just thought about you and I'm like, man, this story is if you don't have goosebumps or the Holy Spirit or whatever you want to say, something's wrong with you because just hearing your story because I really appreciate the grit you have and the faith you have because I know what it's like to start from zero.
Yeah.
And people don't get that, Cash. They don't get it. They say, well, I'm like, there's many days you want to quit, but you got a bigger vision. You keep your eyes on the vision, what's in front of you. And I just want to say congratulations, man. You keep going. God's got a plan. You know what you're doing, and just keep going. We're going to talk about vision because in my book, Are You Really D1? I talk about vision. I talk about
Hmm.
preparation. I talk about that first starting journey. What in your vision, let's rewind a little bit more. Let's go back to right before you went to college. What
Hmm.
was your big vision you had for life, for your life in general?
Wow, man. As we grow, the vision kind of evolves and the purpose evolves. And probably in college, I was really focused on doing things that I was passionate about. I always felt like if you do what you're passionate about, what you love, you have an opportunity to cultivate your skill set and become good or great at it. And I always wanted to be great at whatever I did. It's just kind of instilled into me from my parents, and then just a little bit of DNA, I guess, just wanted to be great. and I knew that I just had this belief that it started with doing what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Over time, though, what I learned, man, is that you should do what you're passionate about, but really, passion is really about you. It's about what you love. It's
Mm-hmm.
about what ignites you. But then I started to think about purpose, and what I realized that purpose is about others,
Mm.
is what you do for others, and that when you try to define what your purpose is, it really needs to start with one of three words: help, give, or serve. You know, and when I started saying, okay, I have passion for sports, for baseball, for building, for entrepreneurship, for leadership, for connecting with great people like you, for the world, the global economy, all that stuff. But my purpose has to be about helping people along the way. And what I realized is over time that really my number one thing, man, is to help make a positive impact on the world doing something I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
keep it broad because, like, there's a lot of ways to do that. And we
Mm-hmm.
just did it for 4 years with baseball. We might do it with something else in the next 4 years. So I don't like box myself fully in, but I said, okay, my first thing, am I going to be helping people?
Right.
And is this something I'm passionate about? If it checks that box, then I'm open to exploring it. The second thing is, who are the people that will be on the journey with me? Do I
Mm.
respect them?
Okay.
Do I enjoy going to work and to war with them? Because you know how business is. It's a battle.
Every day.
Do I trust them?
Right.
And the learning I've had over the years, man, and I learned so much in this last journey, is that is the critical part. You got
Mm.
to have the right people, and it's the hardest thing to put the right group together, the right ingredients together.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes what was right in the beginning ain't
Isn't
right
right.
after
Right.
a couple of years, and
That's
that's
right.
part of it. You have to keep learning, keep shifting. I've learned to keep my circle small.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned over years. You know, I probably used to overshare, over trust in the early days, and you have to kind of be a bit more meticulous with that, man.
Right.
Especially when you have big ideas and you're trying to do big things. And
Correct.
so the second part is about the people, and then the third thing for me is I want to be successful doing it. And I don't like doing anything unless I have an opportunity to push myself and my team and be successful. And
Correct.
we define success, coach, in so many different ways, as you know.
Right.
Not just money, even though money is one of those things. For me, money is on the list of success. You want to be successful in your business, but success is impact, it's inspiration, it's
Mm-hmm.
making a difference. Again, it's helping people, it's creating history. It's making people feel good. So, there's been times where I've been successful monetarily, but I'm like, you know what?
Right.
I wasn't successful on other things. I didn't, make people feel good. I didn't, make enough of an impact.
Okay.
And
Right.
there's been vice versa.
Correct.
And I think that, my journey is always the constant pursuit of how can I align those three things? Make a positive impact on the world, doing something I'm passionate about, do it with good people that are inspired to do great things, and three, be successful doing it, both on the business and financial side, but also on the community and impact side.
Yes. Mm. I like that what you said because when I think of the word, what you was talking about, the last thing you talked about success. I was writing my notes down, and it's interesting because I think most entrepreneurs think alike. I think we all
Mhm.
think alike if you're an entrepreneur and you do it for life. I mean, you're just doing it. Even when you're not making the money you think you should be making. And those are
Right,
some days. You go through that.
right,
But we think about the end goal. And you said something. You talked about success. You talked about passion. You talked about purpose. You talked about people. But the one thing I thought about when you said success, true success, and you will agree with me, is when you can impact people.
that's
And we're
right.
not talking. We know you're going to make money. That's not the issue. But the bottom line is this: impact is a meaning of growth. Because when you impact somebody, you're making a change that you may not see it on the outside, but in the
Right.
inside, eventually they'll walk it out what you've already planted a seed in them. Like you said some stuff to me, you know, and I'm like, okay, I can relate to that.
Right.
I can relate to that, but I can't relate to that. And I started thinking about it because after I start interviewing so many different people from different backgrounds and different walks of life, you start thinking. I mean, I've been thinking about your interview for so long because this is
Appreciate
a this is life changing. You don't get people that start from ground zero. We're talking about a baseball league. we're
Right,
not talking about we're not talking about a little league. We're talking about a base. No disrespect,
right,
but the point is, in a different country with a different language, everything, and that's like high honor for someone to do that. You had to trust God. You got to have a whole lot of faith.
right.
You gotta be risky. Sometimes just going with like blind faith. Just go out there. You don't know
Right.
what's gonna happen, but you just believe in
You know
your.
what? You know how it is, Coach. I mean, starting it is oftentimes the hardest part. You know, having that courage, having that vision, having that belief in God and yourself. Having that will
Right,
to
right.
know that you're gonna have to put on the boots and go to work, get your hands dirty for years and years and years,
Years.
and there's no damn guarantee it's gonna work. You
That's
know,
right.
and
Right.
and that's why I have so much respect for the people that begin and the people that build things because it's funny. I was talking to someone the other day and they're like, oh man, you got this league rolling now it's easy, and I'm like, well, first of all, it's still going to be hard, but yes, it is easier now,
Right.
4
But
years in, but you should have seen it 4 years. Like it looks always easy to people on the outside when they weren't part of the build.
yeah.
And most people see it and they're like, man, I could do this shit. I could do this
No.
now. But
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
maybe you could do it now,
Right.
but you couldn't have done it probably back then because there's a reason why no one in history had done it before because it's freaking hard, you
Yeah, it's
know?
hard.
And, my
You're right.
favorite quote in life is a Michelangelo quote. And it's, I saw the angel in the marble and
Okay.
I carved until I set him free.
Mm.
It's about vision, man. Like that
Mm.
key word you said. It's about
Mm.
vision. It's about seeing this big old
Big.
block
That's right.
and knowing that there's beauty inside it. There's this beautiful angel, but you got to do the work. You got
Correct.
to you got to keep coming every day to start to cut out a wing and cut out a face and start
Right.
having that shape come to life.
Correct.
And the more you start cutting and carving over time, more
Time.
comes out, and then people start to see the angel.
Correct.
But in the beginning, they don't see it. They see a big rock. And you know
Yeah.
what the crazy part is? 100% of the time, and now I've been blessed to be able to build 4 companies now. 100% of the time, once you carve that whole angel, everybody's like, "Oh, I knew there was an angel in there. I saw that angel in there." But I always knew that that angel was hiding in there, and you're like, "Yeah, right."
Yeah. Right.
So that's just how it is, man. That's the
Yeah.
nature of life, and I think as an entrepreneur, it probably annoys you in the beginning, but over time you learn.
Right.
That's how people are. That's how the
Right.
world is.
Right.
And everybody sees the angel after you already carved it,
Yeah.
but only you saw it
So.
when it wasn't there.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
that's another thing that always gives me goosebumps, man.
Yeah.
Building
Yeah.
something from nothing, seeing the angel in the marble.
Mm.
And that's what I'm excited to do, man, in this next chapter that I'll share soon because obviously, I don't leave something great to go sit on my butt.
Right.
I
Right.
leave
Right.
something great to go try to build something greater. And one of the biggest things I learned, Coach, is that people like you, what you do every day, is really, really, truly where it's at. Development and helping the young people grow. I
Correct.
mean, I had the opportunity to build and lead a professional baseball league, which was a dream come true in one of the coolest cities in the world and one of the most
Yeah.
inspiring parts of the world. But what I realized, man, is the grassroots, the youth, the amateur development is really the
Mm.
critical piece
Right.
because if you don't have that, then the professional league doesn't really have as much potential for impact.
Mm.
And I see that there's an opportunity in the amateur space internationally in a big way. Like people don't have the breadth and depth of amateur tools that we have here in the US, obviously. And
Okay.
growing that across the world, in Asia, in Africa, in the Middle East, all that is still really, really important to me. and I'm excited to continue to do that in the next chapter.
I like that. You said something about the youth because I know we have a lot of guys that are listening because on my high school team that I coach and my travel team as well, and the kids that train, they're listening to you talk, and they're like, you said a key word. You said the youth because back in the other countries, some of them are not as developed or they don't know the sport,
Right,
and I think us in the United States, we kind of take things for advantage. We take
right.
advantage of the opportunities we have. With that, can you share a little bit about why it's so important and what can we do overseas to help them develop as youth? What's your intake on that, Cash?
Well, like you said, man, I mean, everything from little league all the way up to the elite travel ball systems, the companies like Perfect Game that create opportunities for people to be seen and to be scouted at tournaments and showcases across the country, to all the travel ball teams and coaches, to all the development centers. I mean, I'm back in Texas now, and this week alone, I've been to at least a dozen academies checking things out in a 30-mile radius.
Okay.
There's not one like that out there in that part of the world. You know,
Mm,
I mean, I was driving. My family and I are moving to actually Brenham, Texas, which is right between Houston and Austin, so where I went to school and where I grew up, and out in the country. Where, my son is about to turn 2 in May. He can be a country boy, but
Congratulations.
thank you, man. And Brenham is called the baseball capital of Texas, and when you go there and you see 5-year-olds going to the batter's box, which is the local facility and academy and travel club there, and you're like, man, that kid got so much better after a 4-week program over here at batter's box.
Right.
Man, if we could just give kids that opportunity, how much more could they grow with great coaching, some access to facilities, access to equipment? How much more could they grow? When I was growing up, I'm 45 now, so I'm an old man now, and we didn't have actually even all that when
Right.
I was growing up. I mean, the travel ball really wasn't a thing.
Right. Right.
It was really little league, and you had majors and minors and stuff like
That's
that,
it.
but it
And
really
that's it.
wasn't a thing.
Right.
Now, and look, there's pros and cons with everything, but there's an opportunity to help enhance development now more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to India, you go to Pakistan, you go to Saudi Arabia, you don't have those types of opportunities at the scale we have here.
Mm.
You have great people trying to do it,
But
uh, but you just don't have that at the scale because people don't know the sport.
mm.
So when you go to Africa, I was just talking to my buddy Matt Soren. Him and his team are doing great work out in Africa, in
Okay.
Uganda, in Cameroon, in
Mm.
Kenya. You got some athletes out there, man. That if we could just get them the training and the guidance and the access and the equipment,
Mm-hmm.
those guys could be ballers, man. And
Mm.
and that's what's exciting to me. And so it's exciting from a community impact, and then also from a commercial and business impact. Because you think about it, MLB is obviously looking all across the U.S. We know they're looking at Japan and Korea, Latin America, Venezuela, from Venezuela to Panama, to Dominican Republic, Curacao, Mexico, Colombia, Puerto Rico,
Yes.
Cuba.
Yes.
We know MLBs are there, but they're not. There are only 2 MLB teams that have academies in Africa. There are
Really.
no MLB teams that have academies or scouting pipelines in India and Pakistan, and that's almost 2 billion people in those two countries alone. And they know how to hit, catch, run, and throw because cricket. They play cricket out there,
Right. Right.
So if you just think about it, man, where's the next Shohei Ohtani going to come from? You know,
Mm.
I believe he's going to come from Asia or Africa.
Mm.
I
It's
really
possible.
do. So I think that's what I'm excited about of here in the U.S. and internationally, helping grow that amateur um, ecosystem so that more kids get more opportunities to be the best that they can be at a sport that we all love.
I like that. Before I go into a quick sponsor break, I want to ask you next one of the questions that you're going through quite a journey with Baseball United. Can you share maybe one or two moments, some exciting moments that you've had with the Baseball United when it took shape, when it
Yeah.
took shape to fruition? Could you mind sharing a couple exciting moments for the
Oh
listeners?
man, well, I mean, there's so many, but I think doing our first ever event in November of 2023, the All Star Showcase, a two-game set in Dubai at Dubai International Stadium, we converted that cricket pitch into a baseball diamond with the help of great people like Murray Cook, who's MLB's expert in field transformation. That was happening at kind of a similar time. There was a war going on in the region in Israel and Palestine.
Mm-hmm.
The UAE is across the peninsula from there, but people were anxious and we had to change the date multiple times. We had managers and players, some pull out because of what was going on at that time in 2023. I had to pivot the concept, cut it from 4 teams to 2 teams, change the name of the event, change the dates. You know, in 36 hours, we had to change everything. We had to do a
Wow.
whole new shoot, get new uniforms, all this type of stuff that you never prepare for. But as an entrepreneur, you got to be ready for to be able to make quick decisions. And that's another big difference, man. When you're building things in the beginning, you have to make decisions in real time to impact hundreds, thousands of people, especially when you're building something that big. When it's been around for a while, the
Right.
decisions are a little bit less heavy.
Correct.
Um,
Correct.
Pulling that two-game showcase off with guys like Robinson Cano, Didi Gregorius, Pablo Sandoval, Jair Jurgens, Bartolo Colon throwing the first pitch ever in the history of our league. That was exciting, man. And having our
Mm.
many of our legendary investors there with us, guys like Albert Pujols, guys like Nick Swisher, et cetera. Having them there, that was amazing. And then the second one probably was building the ballpark, man. Building the ballpark from
Mm.
scratch. First professional baseball league or first professional baseball field in the history of the
Mm.
Middle East and South Asia. I decided to pursue building a park because our original plan was use cricket stadiums and then flip
Mm-hmm.
those to baseball diamonds. But there were so many cricket events in the region, we could never get like a schedule, a month or two
Oh.
months to do our league. So I was like, man, we got to build it. And I found a patch of dirt out about 25 minutes outside of downtown Dubai and worked with the great Dubai tourism department and Natalie Field and their team, as well as the great group at this complex called the Sevens, Matt Tate and his
Okay.
team, and found this land and built uh, the first professional baseball field in history of the region. Work with Musco Lighting, one of the best lighting sports lighting companies in the world. Have an elite, professional lighting system and show
Mm-hmm.
system. Target field turf, an elite turf surface that the Texas Rangers use, that the
Yeah.
Yokohama Bay Stars use, and just built that ballpark, man. And since then, we've hosted 3 big events there. A national team tournament in November of 2024, a friendly series in February 2025, and of course our last season, man. So those moments are ones you remember forever, ones that you couldn't have dreamed about even thinking about back,
Right.
when you were young, but now we were able to do that, and really proud of our team for being able to pull all that off.
Man, those are two great stories. I know you got many, many, many more, but I wanted to make sure I give the opportunity for the listeners to hear some things because this is a dream for some. Maybe the next Cash, we don't know. Maybe another
Right.
Cash is out there that we don't know.
Yep.
But by you planting those seeds of encouragement, those seeds of growth, those seeds of impact, you're impacting people with just your story and your testimony. But I want to say thank you for that. I'm gonna go ahead and get a quick sponsor. This sponsors by is brought to you by Hoist hydration drink. This is the drink here. We are sponsored by Hoist. It's a 4-level hydration drink used in the United States military to keep soldiers hydrated, performing in extreme environments. We're talking about heat. We're talking about water. It's trusted by the military, so it definitely helps athletes grind through the long season demand schedule. Hoist hydration. Hoist is like for soldiers. It performs like an athlete. You know, Cash, you talked about a lot of good things. You talked about vision. You talked about impact. Let's drop a little bit about growth. How important is growth internationally for the future of of baseball, the sport itself? What do you think about that?
Well, I think specifically about baseball, international growth is the next frontier for sure. You know, I mean, we just coming off the World Baseball Classic.
Yes.
set every record possible for international viewership, international or international sponsorship, attendance, sellouts every night for
Yes.
every game. International baseball has never been bigger. So I think that the game's going to continue to grow internationally. MLB's done a fantastic job growing that asset, the World Baseball Classic. There's 141 countries that are part of the WBSC, which is basically the global federation
Correct.
for baseball, and you get to see the top 20 play in the World Baseball Classic. But I often said the last few years that the other 120 other countries, I call them the forgotten nations of baseball,
I like it.
because they have national teams. They have great coaches who are passionate to coach. They've got talented players, but they haven't ever had a platform. They never
Hmm.
had the opportunities that a
Right.
lot of these other countries have, and that's why I wanted to build Baseball United and give these countries that platform. We were able to do that, as I mentioned, in November 2024. We created a tournament called the Arab Classic, and we had the India national team play the Pakistan national team. We had the Saudi Arabia play for the first time in history. The UAE had a national team, first time in history. They made it to the finals. It was great for the country. We had Sri Lanka, Nepal, Palestine, Afghanistan. I mean, Bangladesh, like countries you just don't think
Never.
about playing
Right.
baseball. They were on the field playing baseball. And that inspires people, man. Like you said, it inspires the next generation to pick up a bat and a glove and toss a baseball around, and I think that's what's important in growing the game. And like I said, and that's why my focus in the future, I really believe will be in that youth amateur level, because you need those building blocks
Yes.
to be able to really, really make impact and grow the game.
Yeah.
That's what I think about, from a growth for baseball. And then, from another angle of growth, man, coach, is just personal growth. I believe like pushing yourself, challenging yourself, getting better every day, not making the same mistake over and
Takes.
over and
Correct.
over. Some of these things drive me crazy. Sometimes I
Yes.
get too intense about it, but I try to teach people that I believe in. My high school basketball coach told me, he used to yell at me a lot. I used to get yelled. I was, getting yelled at a lot. He used to tell me I was our best natural rebounder, even though I was 6'4" and we had taller guys. But he said, Shake, you gotta push yourself. You gotta do more. And I used to get pissed at him for yelling at me. And I would finally one day I was like, Coach, man, why are you always yelling at me?
Hmm.
And he's like, listen, Cash, only two reasons why I wouldn't yell at one of my players.
Okay.
Either one, because you're doing everything perfect, or two, I gave up on you.
Correct.
And he said, and ain't nobody perfect. So he basically said, I'm pushing you because I believe in you,
Hmm.
you know? And that's something that always stayed with me. And for better, for worse, man, I'm always pushing those around me. If you talk to my wife, she'll say, God, this guy don't stop, Um, and, and it's because I believe in people, man. I believe in all of our ability to be great, to do the impossible. And, what I've learned over the years, especially in entrepreneurship, because stuff gets intense, and this last journey, basically, I was very intense. Maybe sometimes I have to tweak my frequency and be like, okay, turn it down a little bit, Cash. You're getting too intense. I know you have great intentions, but you maybe don't push that hard.
Right.
And other times you got to turn it up,
Correct. Correct.
because you're like, hey, everyone's getting complacent. People are getting too
Correct.
comfortable.
Correct.
And if you ask me, coach, would it have been possible for us to do what we did without me pushing as hard as I did? I would say absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Hmm.
But, sometimes when you do that, it becomes uncomfortable for you and other people.
Yep.
So you always got to recalibrate and say, all right, where's my frequency? And
Correct.
for me, like, I feel like the medium to high frequency. So if you think about like a
Yes.
stove where it's like low, low, medium, medium, medium high, hot. I think medium high is where I want to be. I don't want to be too hot.
Correct.
At times I've gotten too hot. But I
Yes.
sure as hell will never be medium or low, man. I want
Yes.
medium high heat
Right.
consistently.
And I'm with you. You're not by yourself. I'm the same way. I'm just doing the interviewing, but I'm the same exact way. But with that being said, you started from scratch a baseball professional team overseas. What was that like, Cash? seeing those fans for the very first time in
Oh
a new
man.
country, all these different languages, everything. What was that like for the fan experience? So you can share it with the listeners here. What was that like for you?
Man, it's one of those things I'll remember forever, looking out into the stands and seeing people from all different ethnicities and different cultures coming out to either fall back in love with the game that they knew growing up because they moved overseas and there was no baseball there. I saw Americans and people from Latin countries in the stands, Japanese fans, and then I saw so many new cultures, Indians and Pakistanis and Arabs that had never seen the game,
Mm,
and they're all kind of experiencing it together. And baseball is a cultural experience. It's not just about what happens on the field. It's what happens off the field, the music, the hot dogs, the entertainment, the mascots. And I really made that a focus of our first season. Really focused on fan experience and the entertainment factor. What fans were eating, what music they were hearing, what was going on in between innings, things that are all normal for us but not
correct,
normal for them.
correct.
you know, um, we had so much fun, and now I know the team's going to take that imprint, that template, and continue to use it because it worked, man. And I'll tell you the most beautiful thing to me, man, is on opening night, we did our seventh inning stretch.
Mm-hmm.
We had everybody up, told people on the PA get up for the seventh inning stretch, sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." Probably like 5% of people got up and sung, tried to sing. We had the words on the big jumbotron, "Take me out to the ball game," and people were like, "What the heck is this?"
This right.
And man, I'm telling you, by the end of this season, and it gives me goosebumps, when that song came on in the middle of the seventh inning, in the seventh inning stretch, "Take Me Out of the Ball Game," everybody was on their feet, and everybody was singing that song. And I looked at, some of my colleagues and said, man, this is what it's about. It took us a season, and that's nothing, that's a blink, to get these fans to not just learn the game, but fall in love with the game, to start singing one of the most iconic songs is "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" that we all grew up listening to, and me
Correct,
looking, seeing little kids singing that.
correct.
I was like, man, these guys should become fans for life now,
Yeah,
and that's why I was okay, coach, like handing the baton to the next group of leaders because when you see that happening, you know that the foundation is strong, and hopefully these guys can continue to grow the league
yeah.
because what we built is something special.
Yeah, you did. Appreciate it. You've done a great job. I know we got a few minutes left, so I'm gonna ask you one more
Thanks.
question before we close out. And this is one of those questions that we've already talked about, but I want to kind of expand a little bit more on it. It's kind of like behind the scenes stuff we're talking about now.
Hmm.
You know, how could you yourself, expand international leagues to create more professional opportunities for players that's in United States? Is that a possibility you think in Cash? Because just say guys get cut, for example,
Yeah.
guys that can play, they just didn't have opportunity. I don't want to say names because there's a few names that you know and I know
Right.
that they're playing overseas in other countries, but they might want to play in your league that you founded. Do you see that happening, expanding
Oh
for
yeah.
like
It's happening now. I mean, we had so many guys from indie leagues, from the Pioneer League, from the Atlantic League. We had guys that were, former MLB players that were playing in Korea, in Japan,
right,
that
right,
now play in our league. So that was one of the biggest reasons why we started Baseball United, is to give more opportunities to guys across the world. As you know, MLB cut the minor league system basically in half, cut the
half,
draft in half. Now you got guys who, 10 years ago or when we were growing up, man,
correct,
they
correct,
would have been in the league, but they're
correct.
not now. So we want to continue to create those opportunities for guys to play the game of baseball, make have a professional career
Yeah,
playing the game that they love. And I think that's what we started at Baseball United, and I believe there's other cities and other leagues around the world where we can continue to create those opportunities for players.
I like that. And last thing before we close out, I want you to give a closing remark, if you don't mind. In 10 years from now, 10 years from today, 2026, where do you see Baseball United?
Oh man. Well, I know that we gave it to the right people to lead it. I handed the reins to, Barry Larkin, who's a baseball Hall of Famer and, one of the greatest shortstops to ever play the game, the first 30-30 shortstop in the history of MLB, and other Hall of Famers that are now going to try to do everything they can to elevate that league. And I think that's the most important part. They're passionate about growing the game and elevating the game in new parts of the world. So what I see overall, beyond even the league, man, is in 10 years, baseball will be a global sport. And
Okay.
the
Right.
NBA has been that, and that's
Correct.
why when you see an NBA team roster, you see literally a dozen countries there, on
Correct.
some of these teams. And, while baseball has been dominated by Americans and Latin American players, some Japanese players, Korean, et cetera, there's a huge part of the world that have not yet got into the game. And in 10
Correct.
years, I really see that changing. Like I said, I see Indian players, Pakistani players,
Yes.
African players,
Yes.
from the continent of Africa,
Mm-hmm.
playing on big league rosters. There's a couple prospects right now that I think might be able to make it to the next level, and I
Mm.
want to see some of those guys drafted. I want to see
Mm.
some of those guys get an opportunity, and like you said, I want to see more American players get an opportunity to play overseas.
Yeah.
And because like I told you, coach, the thing that changed my life the most was when I had the opportunity to go see the world, as you mentioned, on Procter and Gamble's dime, thankfully. And when you see the world, you learn we're a lot more similar than we are different. You get
Yeah.
inspired by different cultures. It's the best education is traveling and seeing new things. So
Yes.
giving players here in the US a chance to travel and see that, I think is an amazing opportunity. So I
Well,
see
thank
all
you.
that happening in the next 10 years.
I appreciate that. This is Cash Shake, episode 110. The founder of Baseball United has several other businesses as well. But if you don't mind, leave a closing remark, Cash, before we get out of here. If you don't mind, before I close it out.
Well, I just want to thank you again, Coach, and thank you for everything that you're doing. Uh, Thank you for encouraging young people to do the right things,
Yes.
to get on the right track, to
Yes.
pursue their dreams. And I'm excited to read your book, man. And I'm excited to
I'm going to
keep
send you
learning
one.
and listening from you, man. Because,
Yeah.
like I said, my focus now is on amateur youth, from 5 years old to the college level. And I got to learn from great guys like you
Yeah.
because you've been doing this a while, man. So thank you for the opportunity.
And I'm gonna learn some more business from you. I
Yes,
need to
man.
learn from you. So we're gonna talk a little bit more. And I'm gonna send me your address and I'm gonna send you a copy. But thanks a lot. Episode
Thanks,
110,
man.
Cash Shake, the founder of Baseball United, talking about international baseball. But before we go, I want to go ahead. If you have loved this episode today and you're inspired to think bigger in the future, subscribe to YouGoin Pro Podcast as well. We have it on we have it on iTunes, and also Spotify. Share this episode with a coach, a friend, and also grab a copy of my book, Are You Really D1? Our mission here at You Going Pro is simply we develop pros. When I say pros, that means on and off the field. So you can dominate in every area like a champion where you're meant to be. This is Coach Laurie, very own episode 110 with Cash Shake. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm out. Have a great day. Thanks a lot, Cash.